Our junior high actually has just been established. This is just the second year that we've been separated from our high school. So we right now have grades 6 through 8. Last year in our first year, we just had grades 7 and 8. We only had 375 students last year. And so the decision was made last year with our 375 students and only 17 staff members to bring our 6th grade students over from the elementary. So we quickly nearly doubled our population. We're at 644 today with 29 teachers. And we changed from a traditional schedule to a block schedule with A day, B day, and 90 minutes. So making these enormous changes, I had this little bit of panic over the summer of what are we going to do? We have so many kids that are going to be on campus, and we have teachers that are not prepared for 90 minutes of time with these students. And so defined learning was something that was brought to us as one of the options to be able to help fill this time for our students. And so one of the key pieces for us was that we are a Title I school. I mean, we have a very low income. I know the last time that we calculated, I believe our free and reduced lunch percentage was at like 86%. So we have a lot of students that just don't get exposure to anything other than what's kind of right here in our community or maybe the surrounding communities. They just don't have a lot of exposure to other outside resources, other experiences, jobs that other than what's right here and available to them. So that was one of the things that we really loved when we were looking at defined learning, was that it was a tool to not only support our teachers in filling this 90 minutes of time that was very daunting to them, but also a way to engage our students in a way that we hadn't been able to do before. Especially with the pandemic that had been, here, and that we all experienced, that we weren't doing field trips, our kids weren't going anywhere. So now we're able to do a nice mix of live field trips because we're back to being able to do that, and this online support that our kids have. So our teachers are now have so much more available at their fingertips to be able to try and support the curriculum that we have and we're bringing to our students, which I absolutely love. So much of what our teachers are doing in the classroom is trying to fill gaps for students. We have a lot of learning gaps. And so one of the things that's so fabulous about the content that defined learning is bringing is that it's a nice way for us to marry the content with engaging activities that our students are able to complete, and it's helping us to be able to fill some of those learning gaps at a faster rate. So I absolutely love that. So I kind of set the stage of our school and kind of where we are on there, but I'm going to turn this time over to one of our fabulous teachers, Shannon, and she is going to walk through some of the ways that we're actually using this in the classroom. And I'm just really excited for us to share this with you because it's a fabulous tool, and we're loving what we're seeing with our students. So I'm going to turn that over and let Shannon take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Dix. I appreciate it. So I'm Shannon. I am the 6th grade science teacher here at Coolidge Junior High. And I use defined learning in my classroom often, actually. I use it because it's easy to navigate, both from my perspective as the teacher and also from my students. It's easy to modify, which is very helpful when you have such a high population of kids from different backgrounds as well as different ability levels. It can be modified for language and ability, which I really like that it's that diverse. We have a lot of English speakers here on campus, so having the ability to translate really quickly through the Google platform or even just through their iPad itself is awesome. It's great for distance students as well, because a lot of times our students will miss a few days, and certainly being a block schedule, I typically see my students twice a week. So if they miss one day, then it's easy for them to get behind. But with defined learning, I actually use an app on their Clever platform so they can access it anywhere they have Wi-Fi available, which is great because that doesn't, they're not too far behind in class. And all of the instructions are on the platform itself. So that's excellent. I haven't had to use it as emergency subplans, but that is in my sort of, if I ever get hit by space debris sort of timeline, that should something happen, it can be easily accessed from any computer and anybody can walk in and follow the instructions along with the students. So if it's not a science teacher, and let's say it's a different subject teacher that's coming in to fill in for me, it's easy for them to just sort of tap into and then guide the students through it. I like that it allows our students to be independent in some capacity. They still have the classroom, there's still the teacher that comes around and helps, but it does kind of put the burden of learning on the student themselves, which in junior high, we are trying to promote a little more independence and a little less neediness on the teacher. So defined learning is a great way to do that because kids not only start to feel self-confident in their ability to take on projects, but also in their ability to go at their own pace, to hold themselves accountable. It's a great experience to use in the classroom to help build that self-confidence for students that I think is so important, especially in middle school and beyond. And like John said, it exposes kids to different career paths. So that's okay, you can go forward, no problem. It exposes students to different career paths. And so especially in science, when we talk about a subject like global warming, for example, I like to say, if this is an interest of you, then this is what you should study in college, or this is what you should look forward to in high school. Because I think science is the kind of subject that feels very unapproachable, like you have to be super smart to like it. But through defined learning, it's actually extremely accessible, and it sort of broadens the horizon for students into thinking, okay, well, I don't have to be the smartest kid in the school in order to go into this project because I like building roller coasters or something. So it's great. And that kind of segues into our next slide, which is about our student work. I myself am a big believer in it has to be written down for your students to kind of get that kinetic movement with it. So these are examples of 2 labs that we did. We did the baseball bat analysis lab, where our students recorded data and they tested different materials that a baseball bat was made of versus how heavy and how long it was to find the ideal weight measurement for a Major League Baseball team. So you can see kind of that my students did 2 table sets of data. So they did that on their own with guidance, but they were able to complete their lab report in a block of 90 minutes, which is phenomenal. The other 2 sections are from the hoverboard lab, which is where students created a hoverboard. And what I loved about that one was it gave them parameters, but then allowed them creative freedom to sort of design however they wanted to. So in the lab, how we did it was all in our mind and we designed it on paper. So they were kind of like a project leader that would just design it, and then it would be given to another department to put it together. On the lab itself, it does give you the option to buy material, to have materials that your kids could make it in the classroom. So I love that Defined Learning offers both of those options. So they have the option for actual hands-on projects, and then this one where the students do a lot of their designing on paper, labeling. Some of my students put their hoverboards 300 years in the future. Some made them for people with different physical limitations. So they had attachments that could go onto the hoverboard, but it enabled them to be creative and to use their own background in life in order to satisfy that assignment. So our next slide, I think, here we go. Yes. So why I use it myself is that we are a rural community. And even though we're getting bigger, a lot of our students are from this town and they've grown up here and their parents have grown up here and everybody knows them. So it kind of gives them exposure to life outside of our town, which is nice. It's an option. It's not limiting them to, one of 7 jobs that's available. They can really sort of dream big. It's accessible for kids of all different backgrounds in the population that we serve, not only at our school, but in our community. A lot of my students actually will go home and teach their siblings and their parents what they've learned in class, because these projects are A, accessible on their iPads at home, and B, they're easy to navigate. So a lot of times my students will have fun going home and teaching them about whatever science project we did here in class through defined learning. They're modifiable for different languages, which is excellent. It engages my students not only cognitively, but actually physically as well. And then it connects real world concepts to what we learn in the classroom. And certainly post-pandemic with distance learning, it's easy for kids to just sort of zone out and just go through the motions of writing stuff down and listening to the teacher until they become monotonous. But with defined learning, it really challenges my students to take accountability for their learning and to think outside the box, which is excellent for children. And it's great for supplemental help. I don't rely solely on it, and I don't think you should. I think it should just be a supplemental sort of helpful classroom addition, and not just in science, but all kinds of subjects. But here in science, it's amazing because it helps reiterate what we learn in class into a more approachable real world connotation. And this little picture is actually from a video still where the kids did in paper airplane, and then we all went out to the lobby, to the pod, and threw them, which they loved, because anytime you get to throw paper on school property, kids go bananas. So it's definitely one that has stuck with them, that they keep talking about month after month. So it's just a great way to support a teacher in the classroom and to support students. So I'm very happy our school chose to use it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. We appreciate that. Did you want to go over this one about the applications?
Sure. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. This is my slide as well. Yes, applications. So in the classroom, I use it primarily to build lab reports because, like I said, I like my students to write. I know they're in 6th grade, but I often talk about in science, you're always going to have to write. And as soon as you learn how to do a lab report, you'll be set up for day 1 of 7th grade, then 8th grade, then high school, then college. So I really love that defined learning lets me front load vocabulary, concepts, and world applications here in middle school. So my students have just come from an elementary school, and now they're sort of big kids on campus. So they really value being treated like they're older students, not so old as high school, but that good like middle ground. And using defined learning gives them the vocabulary that they're going to encounter in later concepts, and also sort of talks to how they conduct themselves in a science classroom. So using it in other classrooms, you have different methods and different benefits, but certainly for science, it's a great way to get them exposed to different careers and different career levels as well. So I think it's excellent.